I am Homa from White Moustache Yogurt, and I am going to tell you a story about our impossible little company with this impossible brand that ended up somehow in Brooklyn, and now we have this impossible new ingredient on our hand, which is whey. So we are going to start this story telling you a little bit about the yogurt. And this is Yazd, Iran. This is where my family is from. And that is the front door of our house in a little village called Mubarakeh. And the tires have kind of always been there. We're like hoarders. And it's a really simple village. It's completely mud and straw, and everyone now has like satellite TV and tile and air conditioning, so I'm not worried about them. But it is towns that were built around natural springs of water, and everything is really, really simple, really to the earth. They have farms, they have very intricate irrigation systems, and this is our kitchen. You can tell by the soot on the walls that everything was cooked with wood. There's some fancy plumbing my dad recently put in that's akin a little to my apartment in Queens right now. And this is just to give you an idea of where we come from and where I come from, because I do not come from a food background. And in fact, my whole childhood growing up, I didn't really care about food. But this is where my family came from, and to us, seasonal food is whatever is fresh. And things were preserved because you didn't have that much fresh food during the winter, so you would have yogurt, because yogurt was a way to preserve your dairy, and you would have meat, and you would have pickles and jams and preserves and things like that. And basically, when I started this company with my dad, I just exploited all of these ideas that our family came from. So this is the house that my father grew up in, and then he went to Tehran, met my mother when he was making a sandwich delivery. He had a sandwich shop there, and he had me and my sister. And I was born on the eve of the revolution in Iran, and ever since I was born, me and my dad were homies. And we did everything together, and I swear there hasn't been a day where I thought of him as my dad. I was just like, this is the coolest person, I get to hang out with him. And we did everything together, and he would come home from the store, and I'd be like, what'd you do today? He's like, well, I sold a cold bus sandwich to so-and-so, and I was just fascinated. And, you know, my early memories, even though it was the Iran-Iraq War, were of like getting on a school bus and, you know, getting a piece of bread from him before I did, and he would go off to work. And those were really simple times in my childish mind. And then having two daughters, my parents decided to immigrate to the United States. And as immigrants, you know, me and my sister, we tried to do everything right. So we went to school, like, you want to get straight A's, you want to get a scholarship, you want to get into a good school. We like checked all the boxes. So I go to UCLA, I go to law school, I get a job, I think, oh man, I've really made it, and had something to prove, kind of. And then in 2009, I get laid off. After I got laid off, I decided, what do I do now? And for some reason, I couldn't go back into getting a job. And so I did all those things I had told myself I was going to do when I wasn't working. So I went to an avocado farm. Turns out it wasn't even avocado season, how much I know about food and agriculture. I'd really departed from my heritage. And so I'm hanging on this avocado farm for 3 months, chain smoking. And then I decided to become a yoga teacher. And I'm like the worst yoga teacher because I'm like yelling at people. I'm like, come on, you can get there, you can touch your toes. So I'm like, I shouldn't do this either. And so while in my 20s, I was a successful attorney in New York City. In my early 30s, I find myself really bad at everything and living at home with my parents and completely single. Um, and so, on a slightly serious note, at that time, it was January of 2011. And my dad was retired. When he immigrated to the States, he became a landscaper, like mowing lawns, doing construction, things like that. And he'd just gotten too old to do that here. And he was retired, hanging out home. I was clearly retired, hanging out at home. And it was around then in January that my uncle passed away. And he passed away from a suicide, which is something that Iranians do not talk about, and we don't talk about mental health issues. And so my dad is clearly trying to process this. And I'm like, well, Amu just passed away, and I'm single, so let's go do something. And without really thinking, we decided to make yogurt and sell it at farmers markets. And it was just something to do with my ailing old dad. And my idea was that we would go and we would get yogurt, we would make it, and we'd sell it at farmers markets on the weekends, and it would get him out of the house interacting with people, and I could flirt with boys. And that was the plan. So this is the original model yogurt, and this was all out in California. And we put it in mayonnaise jars. This was like about 12 ounces worth of yogurt. This is a flavor my dad came up with. Because it was winter, we did the Yazd flavor with mint, walnuts, and raisins. And, I mean, if I had known how strict dairy regulations were, I would have picked bread or salt or something else. But we picked yogurt because it was just something we were good at. And people would always come to our house and ask for it. And you know, I was like, I'll just need something. So we went to a local restaurant. We got our commercial permits, everything, and we were selling it. And within the first couple of weeks of doing this, we knew that we were onto something just based on people's reaction. So at our first farmers market in Huntington Beach, it was rainy and we made $12, and it wasn't very profitable. But we slowly grew, and people were eating this like they were having yogurt for the first time. And it was so fresh, and it was so small batch. And we were making 8 gallons of yogurt per day at the markets. And slowly we grew into 5 farmers markets. And I'll never forget, it was the morning of Saturday, and we are at the Laguna Beach Market. We set up the table. I've worn my best dress, and within an hour, we've almost sold out of product, and it's about 9:30 in the morning, and I get a phone call from Scarlett Treviso, and she calls my personal cell phone number from her personal cell phone number on a Saturday morning and tells me that she's from the State Department of Food and Agriculture, and that if I don't shut down the booth, she's going to come there and she's going to shut us down and fine us $1,000. And I was like, is this a prank from someone from law school? Because, like, this is a joke. Like, I've gotten all of my local and city permits, and we're good to go. But, no, she was very serious, and she told me how she had shut down, like, a Vietnamese, like, milkshake maker a week before and, like, a Mexican family 2 weeks before that, and they were all doing the same thing I was doing. I'm like, well, why'd you shut them down? Like, this is ridiculous. And I remember just getting so angry. I called everybody that I could, and I wrote to everybody. And I was like, there's something wrong about the way we have access to food. And I remember one day I just wrote this really angry email off of like the info page to The Economist. And lo and behold, they actually carried the story. So there I am with my dad fighting for like dairy rights in California, and what turned out to be a 2-year advocacy effort on the part of me and my family and our pro bono attorneys was just kind of going nowhere. And we submitted lab results and everything, and all of a sudden, like, I'm just like this angry lady writing emails, and no one is responding. And so we worked really hard to get some change to happen in California, but it wasn't really happening. And to me, that just speaks to a lack of food, serious problems. I'm angry, and I'm petty, and I'm bitter, and there it is. And if anyone's taking notes, there's, spelling is correct. And I just thought that so many other people were shut down before me that didn't have a voice, and I had this legal education and all this anger and stubbornness that should go to some use. So at this point, I'm starting to have a little bit of fun with this, and I have now identified with every piece of my identity, like animal prints because I'm Persian, and I'm wearing it, even though I've been wearing that outfit probably for 6 months at that point in that photo. And under that zebra print is a incubating batch of yogurt. And this is how we kind of just started having fun. We got invited up to Oregon to make this work. And then we luckily found Salvatore Brooklyn Ricotta. And this woman named Betsy Devine is quietly running this dairy shop here in Brooklyn. And I'm sure you don't know it because she doesn't even know it. But I keep telling her, like, you are running this, like, urban dairy revolution. And if it wasn't for her, I could not operate. New York laws are the same as California laws, but they just gave me the opportunity to come here and let my business fail. Like, that's all the opportunity I wanted to see, like, whether this would succeed or whether this would fail. And we are finally, like, having a great time. And we're making tons of bowls of yogurt here for you in New York. This was our first batch in 2013. We wrapped them up in blankets, and this is how we did our very, very first round, because I was like, I don't know if this is going to make it here. And we were just really, really lucky. And the response in New York was incredible, and we got lucky. And years later, me and my dad are in Vogue being talked about, and one of the things that article talked about was the whey. And it was around that time in summer of 2014 that, I was like, look, I'm so stubborn, and I'm a big flirt, and I'm petty, and I'm angry, and I'm vain, and I've exploited my whole family's culture. So let's have a little bit of integrity for a change. And so we curbed our entire yogurt production, and we focused on the whey, which was a byproduct of making yogurt. And so let's have some more fun with this. What is whey? So we take the yogurt that we have just made, and we strain it through a cloth. And the water that drips out of the yogurt is milk. It's just the liquid part of the yogurt dripping out. And it's full of the probiotics and calcium of the yogurt, but none of the fat. And this is still yogurt. It's just in a different form. And it was so difficult to come to market with it and to let people know what it is and how to use it and how to drink it, because it is very hydrating. And this is how we were initially selling it. And it was in liter containers. And it's this weird neon green, yellow liquid, and I was selling it in 1 liter bottles because I was like, it's delicious and you're gonna love it. And people were like, no, it's really weird and we don't know what to do with it. And we didn't know what to tell people either. And so I just was so stubbornly putting it on the shelves, and we learned so much. And then we decided to just kind of spread the word about the different uses, but we weren't very focused, because you can cook with it, you can make smoothies with it, and frankly, this was out of my own wheelhouse. And so I got really lucky and teamed up with some amazing women on my own team. So Jen Anderson, who's in the audience somewhere today, came up with a bunch of flavors, and we decided not to use any sugar in our flavors, so we used tangy, natural fruit juices to flavor our whey. And then we have a turkey brine, because the yogurt whey is so acidic, it turned out that it could actually marinate and tenderize the meat. So we have an entire turkey brine scenario where you can dip your bird into a bucket of whey for 24 hours and it tenderizes the meat, and it gives it a lemony flavor. But imagine telling someone to do this after also being like, wait, you can also drink it, but you can. So, we're playing with this. So it does take a good 18 to 24 hours, and then you take it out. And I remember this was actually the very first bird that we did, so we decided why not just videotape this for the whole world to see. And we put it into the oven, and we cooked it, and it cooked so fast that the skin actually is a little burnt on that side. I didn't show you in that video, but it caramelized while it was cooking, and so it browned the skin of the turkey. And we also learned, because of the acidity, we could ceviche with the whey as well. It just cooked the fish. And also we can make it as a cocktail base. So this video is from Food 52, and they made a cocktail for a wasted food event. And we don't like to think of the whey as a food waste product. I like to think of it as food. And so every jar of yogurt and every bottle of whey is precious to us. And I hope that you guys can help me spread the word on how to use that. So thank you.